Yes, good evening traders. I hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to Traders Hub YouTube channel where we post trading educational content and weekly analysis. Yes, as usual, we are going to start with dollar index from the daily time frame. And finally, we can see that the dollar is now moving to the direction that we anticipated to. And you can see that this was the last break of structure, and as usual, after break of structure, we anticipate a correction, and we got a correction to around 61.8 Fibonacci levels. And ever since, we have now slowly been breaking structure on lower time frame to the upside. And our main target still haven't changed. We are looking to have this price at around 36. Yes, from there again, maybe to have a correction before continuation. And yes, that's it on the daily time frame. Let's head to 4 hour and check what we have. Yes, we can see that this was the last break of structure. Ever since we had this break of structure, we have been consolidating, okay? Ever since we had this break of structure, the price has been consolidating. Yes. Then we had this sweep of liquidity. Again, back break of structure. After this break of structure, we had a small retracement before a continuation. So I was anticipating that we could have a deeper retracement to at least 50 Fibonacci level, but price does what it does. And so as usual, we don't predict these markets, we react to whatever the price does. And so yes, right now we are currently in, and yes, on lower time frame, yes, hourly time frame, see that. I think let's head to have a picture of what. See that on 15 minutes we had this last break of structure, and then we had a correction and a sweep of internal liquidity, which are catalyzed the bullish move. Yes, I think that's it on the dollar index. And as usual, we don't really trade the dollar index. We trade dollar denominated pairs, and that's why we always start with dollar index. So let's head over to EURUSD, check what we have. As usual, we're going to start with daily time frame, the higher time frame, and you can see that ever since we had this the last bullish break of structure before the bearish break of structure or change of character, we have had this correction, and you can see that price corrected to at least 61.8 Fibonacci level as usual. After every break of structure, we anticipate a correction to at least 61.8 Fibonacci levels to 78 Fibonacci levels, and you can see that our price corrected to at least 61.8 Fibonacci levels, and since then it has started to flash, and our target is around 1.1412. Yes, and that's it on the daily time frame. Let's head over to 4 hour time frame. On the 4 hour time frame, you can see that yes, we had this break of structure, and after every break of structure there has to be a correction, and I was anticipating that the price will correct to at least from the previous analysis that I've done, you can see that I was anticipating that the price to at least reach 61.8 and again take this internal liquidity. But that didn't happen. And the price corrected to, at least you can see it corrected to 50% Fibonacci levels, and again started to flash to the downside. Okay, but for us to really get a clear glimpse of whatever happened, we have to head to the 15 minutes or the lower time frame, and you can see that in the lower time frame the price printed the last break of structure, a bullish break of structure, and ever since the price shifted to the downside, and this was the first break of structure to the downside. And again, I really wanted to participate in this short, but I could not. I wanted price to come at least to these levels and sweep this internal liquidity, but again that did not happen. And again the price broke structure to the downside, and you can see that clearly there. And as usual, after every break of structure there has to be a correction to at least 61.8 Fibonacci levels, and you can see that we have this internal liquidity, all this internal liquidity, which price has to sweep in order to have the catalyst for the bearish. Yes, and this is just for your benefit, but just looking at the charts, I can see that these are internal liquidity, and you can see that price corrected to and I don't know why I don't have my positions here, because I took this trade, and I will also share with you the trade that I took and the profits. This move also got me to pass an Atlas challenge which I had with them. I will also share with you the certificate. I had a 100k account with them, and it's this trade which enabled me to pass with them. Yes, you can see that the price corrected to, as usual, I don't really route for 50 Fibonacci retracement. My retracement levels are either 61.8 or 78.6, and you can see that again this time 71.8 is the level that held this, and this internal liquidity was swiped in order to catalyze that bearish move. Yes, and so again, I'm anticipating that we are going to have a correction. Let's head back to the 4 hour. Yes, I'm anticipating that we are going to have at least a retracement to 61.8, this level, or 71.8, and sweep this internal liquidity here. Yes, this is my analysis for the week. 61.8 or a correction to at least 78.6 before we flash to the downside. And again, I think we will look at the fundamentals at the end, because this week there are very, very important fundamentals, and as we know, it's fundamentals which catalyze all these moves. Yes, let's head over to GBP-USD. Yes, on GBP-USD, on the daily time frame, I don't really have a really good picture, but let's check at what we have on the weekly time frame. You can see that on the weekly time frame, we have had this break of structure, and after every break of structure, we should have at least a correction to at least maybe 50% or 61.8, but this price did not correct, did not have a deeper correction and rally to the upside. But again, after rallying to the upside, you can see that price, the price really refused to close above this area, and you can see that it really closed with a shooting star, which is a very aggressive reversal candlestick. Yes, and ever since we have had these corrections, so probably we can still have a deeper correction, maybe sweep all these internal liquidity and probably come for this last internal liquidity, maybe before we head over, or that can be a start of a bearish move that will take a very long time, if not years. And so let's head over to the daily time frame. And again, on the daily time frame, we can see that I don't really have a very clear picture, because you can see that the last break of structure was a bullish break of structure, and this break of structure was facilitated by this. So we have all these bullish structure, and so currently I have this liquidity, daily liquidity, and this extreme daily liquidity. And so I don't want to predict these markets. Let the markets do what it does, and let the markets show its hands. Okay, so let's head over to the 4 hour. The main important thing to put in mind is that currently the dollar is very, very bullish, and yes, and it is being caused by the rising inflation and the hawkish stance of the Federal Reserve. Yes, you can see that in the 4 hour, this was the last break of structure to the upside. Okay, and ever since we had that break of structure to the upside, the price has shifted to the downside. Okay, you can take it as break of structure or TC, whatever works for you. And if you can check the last two analysis that we did, I was anticipating again for at least price to retrace to at least these levels and check this internal liquidity here, but that did not happen, and as usual we flow with the markets. Okay, and again, I think we don't have really a good picture of what's happening, so let's head over to 1 hour and get a good picture of what has happened here. As you can see that ever since we had this break of structure, price shifted bullish. But again, this was the last break of structure to the upside before the change of trend to the downside. Okay, and this was the internal liquidity. Yes, as usual, retracement to at least 61, but 78 was a better level, because you can see we at 61, on top of 61.8 Fibonacci levels, we have an internal liquidity, which according to my strategy, a swipe of that liquidity looks better for me before a continuation to the downside. And you can see that for that rule really saved me. First, it got me probably a good risk-reward ratios, and yeah, yes, heading over, you can see that price ever since we sweep this liquidity, price shifted to the downside, and I had this trade, and fortunately it wasn't my stop loss wasn't triggered because I had an allowance on my stop loss. And you can see that I can also share with you there this trade. It's the same setup that I had on EU. And yes, currently I'm anticipating correction to at least, again, as usual. This thing can be boring because not really boring because it's the same thing over and over that I'm looking before I enter in these markets. And yes, it is the same type of setup, and it's the same type of entry criteria that I look for. Okay, yes, and that's what we are looking for in GU. Probably I think around 78 will give us a better risk-reward ratio. And yes, we still have the daily targets on the downside. Yes, moving forward, I think we can look at gold. Yes, as usual, starting from the daily time frame, last break of structure, we had the correction, and ever since price has been heading to the downside. Let's head over to 4 hour. On 4 hour, you can see that. Yes, you can see that last week we had this break of structure, and yes, this was on Friday. Yes, I think this was on Friday, and I did not take this setup because it was on Friday. It was a very, very good setup, and I think for us to fully understand, yes, these were the target, and currently we have that structure. This is our current break of structure. This is a very, very strong liquidity block. Very strong liquidity block. Yes, and so as usual, I'm anticipating a correction to at least, yes, 61.8 or 78, and take all these liquidities before we head down and take the daily liquidity we have down here. Yes, let's head over to the 1 hour time frame and see what happened. Yes, on Friday, I think on 15 minutes, yes, on 15 minutes, we have a clear picture. Let me remove this. Yes, you can see that this was on Friday, and as usual, after every dump, and this was the last break of structure, I was anticipating again for price to correct to at least again 61.78, and for this I was anticipating that price will take this internal liquidity and activate me before we head over. But unfortunately that did not happen, and yes, I was correct on the direction, but the entry did not happen, and that sometimes is part of the game. Yes, again, after you can see that this is a break of structure, and I did not look to participate in this market because for me to really participate in any structure, I look to participate twice only. Any entry that will occur more than 2 times, for me that first it raises caution, and for that reason I did not participate in this direction. But it was still a good entry setup, and you can see that the price flashed at this correction. And yes, that's my analysis on gold. And most importantly, I put more emphasis on whatever has happened on the 4-hour, and this is what I'm looking for on gold. High conviction trade, this is the a high probable trade for me that I'll be looking for coming next week. Yes, maybe the last market that I can check with you guys is we can look at Bitcoin. Because yes, Bitcoin has been doing, I can say, wonders. Yes. Yes. This is my long-term analysis, and my long-term bearish targets are around 48,000 to around 30,000. Yes, 48,000, 30,000 will be a dream. Yes, let's take a look at the daily time frame. As anticipated, this was our target, and ever since we swept this liquidity, Bitcoin has been flashing to the downside. We can see that the price has just swept this liquidity and really refused to close below this level. Yes. Yes, probably this can be a start of a correction, but I don't really think so. I think this market can still tank to around 48,000 levels, or maybe to around 50,000 before we start any good correction. But probably this can be a 4-hour correction before we continue to the downside. And so yes, I have a friend of mine, also a head trader of Traders Hub. I think we all know him. He has this setup that he is looking for a correction setup, which we don't really vouch for, but still it's a setup. And so you can see that we have had 2 break of structure to the upside, even though we are in this hourly structure. So bear that in mind. On the 15 minutes, we've had 2 break of structure. So maybe we'll still have a correction and a swipe of this internal liquidity, trendline liquidity, and maybe start that correction to the upside. And so yes, maybe that can start a 4-hour correction before we can before we continue with the plunge to the around 48,000, probably 30,000 zones. Yes, that is my analysis. But before we finish, let's check the fundamentals of this week. And I usually check Forex Factory for my fundamentals. Yes, a moment. Open the calendar and have to filter. Yes, you can see that on Wednesday we have very important news. consumer price index. These are the inflation news, and you can see that the inflation is rising. You can see that the yearly CPI, the current yearly CPI is around 3.8, and it is been forecasted to increase by around 0.4%, which is a very high. And so as usual with high consumer price index or inflation, the Feds will hike interest rates, and for that case this might be in return good for the US dollar. And again, on Wednesday we also have the Bank of Canada interest rate statements and overnight rates. Again, on Thursday we have the euro, the euro main refinancing rates and their monetary policy statement. And again, on Thursday we also have the core PPI for USD, and last but not least, maybe on Friday we have the GDP for Great Britain pound. So this week is going to be very, very volatile, and as usual I don't really look to predict the fundamentals, neither do I look to predict the markets, but as usual preparation, most battles are won in preparation, as Sun Tzu said in his book of the Art of War. And so yes, let's see what the week will bring. And as usual, for those who are joining this, for those who are new and joining this channel, this is Traders Hub YouTube channel, where we post trading educational content and weekly forex analysis. And this is Mali Mathman, head trader at forex. Head trader at Traders Hub. Good week.